Most podcasts talk about customer experience like it lives on a slide. This one talks about what actually happens when the meeting ends. Welcome to Confessions of a CX Executive. I'm JP Dumas, former CX executive, and this is a show where we have honest conversations with leaders who've been in the chair, made the calls, and have owned the good, the bad, and the ugly that don't show up in conference keynotes. If you're responsible for results, revenue, churn, and team engagement, well, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Welcome to this week's episode of Confessions of a CX Executive. I'm your host, JP Dumas, and I have another exciting guest. Noam Blit is a former product and commercial leader in the electric vehicle space. So this is something a little bit different, focused on charging infrastructure, platform strategy, and world-class customer experience. Now, he's got a deep expertise in building and scaling the payment and EV solution space. So he operates at the center of one of the most complex system challenges today. That's connecting hardware, software, networks, and user behaviors. So he's got a lot of things on his plate. So he brings a grounded perspective on how infrastructure decisions directly shape customer outcomes. So we're going to jump into it. So Noam, anything you'd like the audience to know before we get started?
Sure, JP. First of all, thanks very much for having me. I'm really excited about the time we're going to spend talking about customer experience in the EV industry, in the EV world, because it's very exciting how this is booming, how geopolitical issues are morphing the industry itself. It's very exciting, very interesting how this industry, from a thought of moving from one source of energy to another in order to save the planet, actually works. So I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. And like I said, you have a unique perspective, especially when we think about how systems can break at scale. So really interested in understanding from the EV background, how do we get all these parts to work? So let's jump right in. I'm going to toss you the most difficult question first. So everyone talks about EV adoption, but what does it actually feel like for the customer today?
That's a very good question, because as a customer experienced purchasing EVs, 3 of them, in 3 different scenarios. I went to a dealership, I went to Tesla direct sales online, and so on. The experience to buying a car naturally was a little bit different from your regular going to the dealership and spending a whole day, and not a lot of people want to do that. But there are a few surprises from my talks with people who have either transitioned to EVs or considering on transitioning to EVs. The first one is home charging wins, meaning when I have my car parked in the garage, as it is doing right now, it's actually taking the nice California sun and putting that electricity into my car for my daily driving. So when a customer or an EV driver drives about 50 miles a day, overnight charging will put all your driving needs into the battery. Another aspect of it is regenerative braking. For example, regenerative braking is a feature where it actually takes the motion of the vehicle, and using the electric motor, it regenerates that electricity, puts it back in the battery. So how many times did it happen when you have a gas car, you take the foot off the pedal and you're getting more gas in the tank?
Great point.
That's something that you can't beat, right? Another feature that I can speak of is the one-pedal driving. The one-pedal driving feature is amazing. It has a lot of aspects into cost, right? I don't need to change my brakes. My personal vehicle has 102,000 miles. The brakes are brand new. Actually, last time when I changed my tires, I asked them to change the brake, to check the brakes. They were like, "Do you even use them?" Because of one pedal driving. So the experience of driving an EV works perfectly, and when you are home charging, and you don't require a public infrastructure, you're doing great. You're in a bubble, and you're doing awesome. It starts to go into the wild when you are relying for making trips out in the wild with public systems, because there are breakdowns that begin the moment the driver relies on public network. There are incompatible connectors, there are payment failures, long queues, broken chargers, limited range, slow charging rates, and sometimes even network failures. And that's where the movement from seamless to breakdown occurs, when you try to take your vehicle. And I have so many stories to tell you where I've driven up based on what the charger operator suggested, driving to a supercharging location, and eventually it's behind the gate and there's no way getting in because it's a parking lot that opens at 8 a.m.
Oh,
just as an example.
that is
So
so
that
tough.
customer experience, along with range anxiety, it does make you shiver a little bit. But I put trust in the gods of batteries, and we got home safe. But EV charging experience has a lot of benefits, and they also have a lot of challenges in terms of customer experience.
So, Noam, where do you think the industry is overestimating the readiness of the system?
That is an excellent question, because the industry, we need to realize, is a puzzle. It is a puzzle made out of charger manufacturers, software providers, and charger operators and charger owners. And for example, charger manufacturers, key performance indicator for them is whether my charger is online or not. Whereas other operators, they might have a different statistics or different key performance indicator for that matter. In many cases, there is a lot of friction, because most of the chargers operators, they will go ahead and report 95 to 99 network uptime. But actually, in the field, there was a research done that revealed only 71 first-time charging attempts were actually successful. And that was a study that was done by a company called Charger Help, and they looked at 100,000 charging sessions to see what's the life statistics. The thing is that the industry itself is fragmented. There are multiple software protocols on how to perform a successful charging. There is a protocol named OCPP, and the industry talks about OCPP as though it solves the communication problem between chargers and networks, but it actually does not, because you need another layer of communication between the charger and the vehicle. You need another level of communication between the charger and the payment device. Even the payment terminal, the manufacturer of the payment terminal, their statistic is how many transactions was I able to perform and how many failed. Now, in many cases, some of these transactions, unfortunately, even when you go to Target, they would fail because you don't have enough credit in your credit card or money in your bank. And that is a different story. But if there is something that the communication between the charger and the payment terminal breaks, even for a split second, that can reduce the success rate of first-time charging attempt. There is also another protocol which is called OCPI. OCPI, in order to improve charging experience, is intended to allow charging networks to talk to each other in order to reconcile transactions. And that doesn't always work. Maybe some communication issues between the two networks. The falling back and stamps and timestamps, they have some issues, and it causes a little bit of incomplete data, and the root cause goes undiagnosed. The third overestimation is, again, as I mentioned, the payment readiness. Many of those payment terminals, they are using cellular towers or cellular connectivity to perform the charging. If your connection is spotty, that is another thing to consider. And the fourth issue is basically making sure that the vehicle and the charger, they are talking the same language and they are talking correctly. It's not only that, oh yeah, my car knows how to talk ISO 15118. The question is it doing it correctly? And is it at a point of failure as well? For me, it happened multiple times where I plugged my vehicle and it said, cannot communicate with car. Why? I don't know, but it tells me to take it out and plug it back in again. After the second or third or fourth attempt, boom, it works. So there's something off there, because even electric vehicle manufacturers, they also track this information to see how many charging attempts there were, how many of them were successful. Naturally, in a home environment, your error rate is reduced to zero or very close to zero. But once you're out in the wild, again, it's the wild. And that causes a lot of customer frustration and concern as well with potential EV drivers who are thinking of making the switch to an electric vehicle.
You've touched on a lot there. Everything from my payments not working to equipment incompatibility. Am I going to be able to find a spot that's not locked up? All these sorts of things. So talk to me a little bit about, where do leaders think this is a technology problem when in reality, it could be a system problem the way you've outlined it?
Yes, in most cases, it would be a system problem, because the question is, how do you look at it? Leaders in the industry, by default, they see those problems as, I'm the charger owner, this is my responsibility. I'm the software owner, this is my responsibility. They take error reporting when charging sessions fail, the charger generates error codes, and the error codes are not always the same, for example. Diagnostics are not always the same. A few years ago, the Department of Energy and Department of Transportation had a joint consortium called ChargeX, and they came up with a document that flattens the level for everyone to use 26 industry agreed upon error codes for them to be able to level the playing field, and making sure that it's much easier to find where failures are done. If most companies would follow that process, then we will see an increase in the charging experience, we will see success, and we will see an increase in EV driver acceptance. Because everybody says, early adopters, oh, they said, and it's an early technology, and okay, I need to wait an hour, fine, I'll wait an hour. Today I wait 6 to 10 minutes, but in some places. But early adopters, such as I am, bought my first EV back in 2016, and on a road trip from Sacramento to LA, we had to wait 45 minutes for the car to charge. Today, that won't happen. But in any case, systematically speaking, companies need to agree upon, we're all going to do the same error codes, we're all going to do the same maintenance, we're all going to do the same, so that we will see improvement in charging reliability.
Absolutely. And so much of what you've talked about really highlights the risk of scaling an infrastructure that isn't fully ready, I guess, to absorb some of these late adopters, right? And so I start to think about it through the lens of what actually matters to that customer that the industry might be underestimating.
So we can identify that the core problem has, I would say, 7 to 8 items. The first item would be to find the charger. It is a learning curve. We are used to driving to a corner of a big intersection and seeing a gas station. Finding a charger, that's a little bit more tricky, although a lot of the vehicle manufacturers, they make it much easier as long as you use their navigation software. Google Maps just recently announced that they're also going to show charger availability on their Google Maps app. So if you're not using your vehicle native navigation, you can use Google Maps in order to find a charger. Access, you found it, can you access it? Is it behind the gate? Is it a charger that is public for certain hours? Down the road, there is an office complex that between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., those chargers are for the employees only. But if I come before that or after that, I can charge and pay for the charging. So access is the second thing. The third thing is, can I start charge? And can I start the payment? Okay? Those are the main two things that we need to reduce the fault and to start to pay for the charging and eventually completing the charge with the amount of energy we wanted to charge. On top of that, there is getting help in case something goes wrong. A lot of these, how many did you visit a gas and dial someone for help? You didn't. There is a gas station attendant. If something goes wrong, you walk over and you're done. Here, EV chargers, when they are on curbside, when they're at superchargers, there is no attendant. And to be frank, when I stopped at an EV supercharger on the way to LA, and there was a arrested by Tesla, which was very nice, the attendant doesn't know which chargers work or doesn't work, and all they told me was, okay, go to a different one. Okay, it's a little different. Another thing is personal safety. In many cases, personal safety is, I think, something that can be a little bit overlooked. My daughter, for example, she went on a 400 road trip, and we looked in advance like we used to do in the back all day, all the map, and let's plan the route or go on MapQuest and print out and we mapped out the chargers that she might consider and that are safe, well-lit areas, that there are other people, there's traffic, there is a coffee shop nearby in terms of amenities, restrooms, and all, or food, or all that. So safety is another piece of the puzzle that charging operators, charger owners, they need to consider that as a failure in customer experience as well.
Yeah, I mean, different things to think about. So now, in the couple of minutes we have left, I'm going to throw the mic over to you, Noam, and I want you to talk about if you were going to design the EV experience from scratch, what would you do differently?
Oh, that's a year on my shoulders, but okay. Well, is this my personal recommendation would be make it simple. Adopt a single shared definition of success measured from the driver's perspective. I don't care, to be honest, if the vehicle manufacturer plugged in and plugged out a cable 1,000,000 times and it worked 95%. Okay? You need to make it, that test, make that available from driver's side. In many cases, these companies, they don't hear about the failures from the driver itself unless they report it. And today, every company in the ecosystem, they measure it on their own and they have their own metrics. Charger manufacturers track their uptime. Network operators track their platform availability. Payment processor track completion rates. Automaker tracks vehicle side. Their industry came into a room. The room were the work groups done by techs, which major in the industry came of documents that are available online. They are public, with a list of key performance indicators. They are defined, and the data sources have been mapped to existing protocols so that there is an implementation guide that if everyone follows, we will see an increase in that parameter of first charging start session, charging us for the first insert, we'll see that number rising. Another thing that should be mandatory is reporting standard. Coming up with some sort of way of what is reported. Because today you report to federal and you report to state, and states, they have their own, each state, they can have their own reporting. We need to make sure first that accountability needs to be made clear. When that KPI, charger success, start success at a station, all the error codes, all the diagnostic data should be available to everyone in the food chain. The driver doesn't have to know all of it, but the industry needs to look at it. Second, there should be an investment in shifting from deployment to operations. Because everybody said, oh, EV is booming, we have to install more chargers. And when you do things quickly to have more chargers in the field, you're losing sight of the customer experience. And the industry is spending billions on new chargers. And the problem is not the amount of chargers there. The problem is more operational. The third thing is that the industry should be to collaborate across organizational boundaries. If you go to a doctor, that doctor can share your medical record with another doctor from an outside organization. They have to. The notion today is one gas station doesn't tell the other gas station what's going to be the next day's prices, right? Shell doesn't tell Chevron, oh, tomorrow I'm going to reduce the price by 15 cents. Something like that. It doesn't have to come to that point, but there should be a possibility, these operators, all these pieces of the puzzle to talk together. What is missing is adoption, voluntary adoption work. There is a gap between reported uptime and driver experience that persisted over years. And the next step is making the KPIs mandatory, tying it to federal funding eligibility. Yes, we lost a lot of the federal funding, but I feel that once the federal is not going to regulate. In the state of California where I live, they are taking over and they are regulating. And I assume that maybe the industry should regulate itself. Maybe the industry should say, hey, we want to do better. So one change, measure success from the driver's perspective using a shared definition reported publicly will tie the knot.
Yeah, no, that's, I think, been enlightening to say the least, particularly for those who are outside of the EV ecosystem. And we don't often think about the customer experience as being something that's all around us. So I definitely thank you for taking the time today, Noam, to walk me through, as well as our listeners, the world and adoptions and all the different things that we've probably never thought about. So 30 seconds. What's
do better than gas? It's the one takeaway, man. There is a statistic that 50% of who tried electric vehicles went back to gas. Okay, that I questionable because you asked But from my perspective, not only that I'm a believer, I'm an evangelist. I try to make more people replace their gas cars with EVs, and one day I will make you change to an EV.
And there you go, folks. This is an exciting discussion on Confessions of a CX Executive. If you like what you've heard, I want you to like, subscribe. These are the sort of conversations that we enjoy having. And until then, we'll see you next week. If today's conversation hit close to home, I want you to do two things. One, share this episode with someone who owns a number. And two, subscribe because we're just getting started. I help CX leaders move from stalled execution to visible results before delays turn into credibility and retention problems for your organization. So if you're feeling the friction between strategy and execution, connect with me on LinkedIn or check the show notes and let's have a conversation. Until next time, this is Confessions of a CX Executive. Real talk, real operators, real outcomes.